All right, and so with question number 4, again, we are solving the system by substitution. And so we want to start by asking ourselves that vital question: is one of our two equations already solved for x or y, or is one of these two equations easily solvable for x or y? And the answer is this first one is probably the easier one to solve if you are trying to solve for x or y, really. And so let's go ahead and start there. So we have our x plus y equals -6. You could, of course, if you wanted to use the second equation and start with, you could solve easily for x here, but y would take 2 steps, right? Because you would have to subtract x from both sides and then divide by -1 or multiply by -1. Whereas here we can simply subtract x, like we're going to do, from both sides, leaving us with positive y equals -x minus 6, and with only one step we've solved for y. Alright, so now that we've done that, we've solved for y for equation 1, let's take this value and plug it into equation number 2 anywhere we see a y, and of course y only appears one time, and so what we are going to have is, we'll do it down here, x minus, well, we're not going to use y anymore, we're going to use the value of y that we just solved for. So plug in with parentheses, minus -x minus 6 equals 14. And now we'll go ahead and distribute this negative sign through. So we have x, well, negative times negative gives us now a plus x, and negative times -6x gives us a plus 6, and equals 14. Let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So x plus x gives us 2x plus 6 equals 14. And now solving for x, we'll go ahead and subtract 6 from both sides, leaving us with 2x equals 8. And now our last step, we'll divide by 2, and so x equals, well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. And so now we've definitively solved for x, so let's take this x value and plug it into the x value of the equation that we solved for y. And so now we're going to have y equals -x, plugging our value, minus 6. So y equals, well, when we distribute this negative through, we get -4 minus 6. And so y equals -4 minus 6 is -10. And so now we've solved for x, we've solved for y. Let's go ahead and put each of these solutions into an ordered pair. So 4, -10. And there we have the solution to our system. So again, if we were to graph each of these two lines, we would see that these lines intersect each other at the point for -10. And again, on your test, a way that you can check yourself is take this point for -10, plug it into each equation, and if you get a true statement for each equation, you know you've done all of your algebra correctly and that you've solved for the solution. If you take your point, plug it into both equations, and you get a true statement for one but a false statement for another, go back and check your work. Make sure you didn't make any little sign errors, and double check that, because then the point the point you have is not a solution, and so that answer will be incorrect. So you want to make sure that the point you've solved for, when you plug it in, you indeed get a true statement for both of the equations you're working with. All right, let's take a look at number 5. I think we've got a fraction coming up.